are talking The Resort. This one is written and directed by Tyler Chien and stars Brock O'Hearn, Bianca Haas, Michelle Randolph and Dave Sheridan. Now this focuses on 4 young adults as they are deciding to visit this particular resort on this Hawaiian island. Now this resort has been shut down because of strange, mysterious circumstances involving missing people, deaths, things like this, reports of hauntings and such. And one of the group, this girl, wants to write a book. So they decide that they are going to charter a helicopter to this particular resort, have a bit of a, experience, see what they can see. Inevitably, things turn spooky. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie to find out. So let's talk The Resort. So what can I say that works in this movie's favour? I think the big one for me is probably the location here. It's quite interesting having a haunted house style movie in such a kind of tropical and exotic location. It's not something you really ever see all that much, I don't think. So, to be fair, 2/3 of this movie, the beginning 2/3 of this movie is more less kind of supernatural stuff. It's really only the last act, but it is the kind of lots of walking around this particular island, and it's truly beautiful, and it genuinely looks like they're filming in some kind of resort which they've made to kind of look like run down and stuff like that. And I've got to say, it really does look pretty impressive, and we're not just having sort of small tight angles and stuff. There's plenty of kind of like wide angles showing you the kind of the scope of where this is filmed, and you really do feel like these guys are in this kind of wide open space, and this kind of very much isolated. I think that kind of works well. And I will also say that on top of that, there's some very good photography here. The cinematography and the way this movie's shot in regards to some of these sequences looks to a good high standard. We do have some I wasn't expecting as gory a shot as we got. And there's one real gory shot in this movie, and I have to say I wasn't expecting the movie to quite go that far. But it's really only one shot, to be fair, but it was more gory than I was expecting from such a kind of like slickly produced movie outside of that. But I appreciated it, and it's a kind of a practical effect, and it wasn't necessarily a realistic one, but the kind of the idea of what was happening was kind of quite gory and quite fun. But it was only sort of one real shot here. But there are a couple of sequences that I think go for some, to be fair, relatively cheap and generic scares, but nonetheless, I think there's some okay kind of spooky kind of setup and kind of scares and things here. It's nothing that you haven't seen before in regards to that, and it's always, and I'm going to complain about this every time I see it now. We have ghostly characters walking behind people, but the rest of the time they're invisible, and I always say, who are they appearing for? Because obviously if the characters on screen aren't seeing them, and we're only seeing them as an audience, but we can't see them the rest of the time, why are they appearing then? It never makes sense to me. But I'm gonna call it out every time I see it from this point on. It's so many times. Anyway, I like the fact that we have quite a cast that seems to get on, and the characters always they don't have that typical false drama that you sometimes get in these movies where you have the typical kind of like dick, and they are different personalities. There's one guy who's like the Joker, but I like the fact that they seem like genuine kind of friends. And it's always nice to see Dave Sheridan fast becoming one of my favourite kind of B-movie actors. He plays the role of a police officer interviewing someone about this. What doesn't work about this movie? To be honest with you, this movie is just very, very generic. It's outside of the interesting locale, which I would say this is really only the unique selling point, to be honest, is this kind of locale. I mean, you can imagine it in a zombie film maybe, but less so in a haunted house film. But other than that, it's standard kind of haunted house fare. The girl in kind of white clothes with kind of dank hair walking around and things like that. Jump scares. It's all very generic stuff. And although I really enjoyed the one gory effect that we had, some of the other effects not quite as polished, I would say. You know, we have CGI blood to kind of like enhance kind of certain scenes here. I think the movie spends too long, you know, showing us the beauty of this particular kind of locale where they've discovered, rather than kind of getting to the plot, because it's not a long film, you know, but it doesn't really kind of get going until the last act. It's 2/3 of the way through before we really see anything kind of supernatural happen, and it could have happened a lot sooner than this, because to be honest with you, our characters, although I quite enjoyed their banter sometimes, we don't know anything about them. I mean, we're led to believe this one girl is writing a book, but we have no idea what her history, you know, we just, oh, she's writing a book. Is she an author? Or this is nothing. We don't know anything. You know, we don't know anything about these sort of characters, other than this kind of like this banter that we see on the screen. Now they've chosen very kind of like pretty people, which is all good. But I've got to say, I think the acting, whilst I won't go as far as say it was bad acting, it wasn't amazing acting. Let me just put it like that. The acting here felt at times a little bit kind of hammy, and you know, like these guys weren't particularly kind of confident in their performances. I think one of the guys, Brock O'Hearn, is like some kind of like male model and stuff like that, with not much in the way of kind of filmography and stuff like this. And of course we have the obligatory cameo from the YouTube community now, which seems to be the thing. At least it wasn't Cool Doodle this time. The ending is particularly weak, I will have to say as well. It's just, it tries to have a twist ending, but it doesn't work. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm just going to say it doesn't work. It doesn't really make any sense. Our main kind of protagonist as well, who I think is going to be our point of view character, is this quote unquote author. I got to be honest with you, out of all of the characters, I found her the most annoying, if I'm honest. For example, we have a sequence where she leaves her bag and her phone in the resort. Yeah, it's her boyfriend's fault. I was like, it made me laugh, but not for the reason that the movie thinks, you know, it wasn't trying to do that. Yeah, but I don't know, she just seems kind of a little brattish, to be honest. Overall, this isn't a bad film. I think it's competently put together in regards to production value and stuff like that. And I don't want to say that I don't think the acting is bad necessarily, but it isn't brilliant. I have to. It's kind of like, well, you know, no one's going to be going on to kind of their future with Oscars and with this lot. Let me tell you that. But you know, I have seen worse. But it was just a little bit kind of like, it looks like acting rather than kind of real people. That's what I mean. But it's just really generic, and that's the kind of thing. It's watchable, I would say, but nothing really to write home about. Nothing that's going to kind of really make you remember this movie, I don't think. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Just below average for me, because I just think it never really kind of does anything above average, and there's a couple of things where I just think it knocked it down. So it's a 4 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What do you think? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.